Hey guys, it's Austin, and I told you yesterday that I was going to come on and give you a little rundown of COVID-19, The Great Reset, written by Klaus Schwab and his co-author, Thierry Malloret. And Forum Publishing, of course, is the World Economic Forum, where Mr. Klaus Schwab is the founder and executive chairman. So, this book was written over the summer, and probably before then too, because they've had this planned out for a long time. And anybody that's familiar with Event 201, which was the Gates Foundation in conjunction with Johns Hopkins University and the Rockefeller Foundation, and they held it at Johns Hopkins University, and it was a global pandemic exercise that took place October 18th, 2019. And it simulated a global coronavirus pandemic and how the nations would respond and how they could do certain things, everything that they've been doing this whole past year. So, without further ado, I guess we're going to dive on into COVID-19, The Great Reset. I'm actually working on my third time reading it. Third time reading it. And you can see my little placeholder there. It's like a little reflective bookmark. I'm about halfway done with it, but we're just going to run through the table of contents just to show everybody what is in this book, and hopefully people can go at it for themselves and give it a read. And I highly recommend everybody do that if they want to understand what is going on in the world at this point in time, which if you read this, you'll realize that it is terrifying. Obviously, you open it up and you got this here. And this is just like the World Economic Forum, blah, 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 whatever. Geneva, Switzerland. That's actually where they're having the Twin Summit on the Great Reset this year. So this first page about COVID-19, the Great Reset. Since it made its entry onto the world stage, COVID-19 has dramatically torn up the existing script of how to govern countries, live with others, take part in the global economy. Yeah, global economy. So there's a word. You can pause this video if you wanted to read this page. Here, I'll set it right here for a minute so you can pause. But I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there's really a lot to go over. This would be Professor Klaus Schwab. He is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, and it just goes on talking about his accomplishments. And another book that he wrote was The Fourth Industrial Revolution, which people should understand by now is AI and AI technology, which we should all be very, very concerned with. Sorry about the sunlight, guys. I'm in my car, and it's 2:41 in the afternoon Eastern time, so and there's his co-author, but he's just was there helping and this and that. If you want to read about these people, you can pause it and read about it if you're interested, or order the book, whatever. Okay, the table of contents. You probably heard other people like Carol from Never Lose Truth, Richie from Boston, Mike Decker, Corbett Report, James Corbett, he's good. Talk about this macro reset. So macro is obviously the opposite of micro, so it means like grand, like giant. Okay, so conceptual framework, 3 defining characteristics of today's world. Then you got interdependence, velocity, complexity. And this Great Reset is broken down into different smaller resets, all part of the grand. So here's the economic reset. And as you could probably already see if you're reading down through here, this one caught my eye the first time I read this. The fate of the US dollar. And if you read it, they basically tell you things that we've already known for a very long time, which is not a very good thing. So you got economics of COVID-19, uncertainty. You always hear that word on commercials, like uncertain times, and oh, we don't know what we're gonna do. Yes, they do, because it's all in here. Economic fallacy of sacrificing a few lives to save growth. So already sacrificing few lives to save growth. Growth and employment. Economic growth, employment, what future growth could look like, fiscal and monetary policies, deflation or inflation, and fate of the US dollar. Now this one, societal reset. This is what's going on right now. This is why you're seeing all of this, all of the protests that went on over the summer, all of the things that are going on right now, the whole Capitol thing that happened. This is it right here. Already you can see inequality, social unrest, the return of big government. So already you should be like, whoa, the return of big government, where did it ever go? But what they're talking about is the return of big government, as in global government, and people that know about the first world government, which was Babylon, of course, under Nimrod, but we'll get into that another time. The social contract. Okay, next page. You got the geopolitical reset, globalization and nationalism. And actually in this book, he goes on and they say how, quote, conspiracy mongering and nationalism are the number one threat to globalism, which, hell yeah, because nobody wants a one world communist government. I don't know anybody else that might. And then of course you have global governance, the one that doesn't exist, that people are like, oh, you're just crazy and you wear a tinfoil hat, that's not real. Well, I'm looking at it right now, and Klaus Schwab is very prominent and the leader at the World Economic Forum, so if he's saying it, you're going to put a tinfoil hat on him? Oh, no way, that's right, because he says it in a good way, and it's a good thing, guys. The growing rivalry between China and the United States. They've been going on with that for a long time, but everybody knows that China and the United States government work together in order to give us a boogeyman and this and that. And China is actually the model that they're using for the New World Order. That's why you always hear Bill Gates talk up China about how, oh, they're stopping the pandemic and this and that. Like, no, that's not happening, because they literally just get on the news and they tell you whatever, and it's all bullshit. And we all know that because of the repeal of the Smith-Mudd Act back during the Obama administration, which prevented the government from using propaganda on U.S. citizens, but then they repealed it, so now they can, even though they were the whole time. But now it's official. Excuse me. Fragile and failing states. Then you have environmental reset, coronavirus and the environment, nature and zoonotic diseases, air pollution and pandemic risk, lockdown and carbon emissions, impact of the pandemic on climate change and other environmental policies. Now you got to remember, this was written during the summer, so according to them, when it started happening, they just cooked this up real quick and they got this all ready to go real fast because, well, we were responding to the needs of the people during the pandemic. So, yeah, no. This was a while in planning. We've all known it. This is the culmination of everything we've been seeing. Technological reset. Now, this is AI. And I don't know if you understand or if you've heard what COVID-19 actually stands for, but it stands for Certificate of Vaccination Identification, and the 19. One obviously is the letter A, which is the first letter of the alphabet, and 9 is the letter I, which is the ninth letter of the alphabet, so AI. Certificate of Vaccination Identification, AI. Okay, so we got accelerating the digital transformation. Everything's going to be AI. Everything. Your job, my job, even though I drive a forklift, so I don't know how, I'm sure they could do it though. I don't know enough about it. At least I think I don't. The consumer, because they have to call us a consumer, because, that to me, that's a disgusting word. Like, you're just going to go and you just consume everything and you're just a consumer and that's all you're good for. The regulator, the firm, contact tracing, contact tracking, and surveillance. So right there, they're admitting to contact tracing, contact tracking, and surveillance. The risk of dystopia, which this whole thing is dystopia, and it's just a law. You have to read the book. Micro reset. You know about the macro reset, but now we got the micro reset. Industry and business. Acceleration of digitization, which accelerating digital transformation up here goes with this. Acceleration of digitization, because everything is going to be digital. Everything is going to be tracked. Everything is going to be traced. You will be traced. I will be traced. When you go and take a dump, you will be tracked. Even if you don't have your phone, you will be tracked. Government and business, stakeholder capitalism and ESG. Industry reset, social interaction and de-densification. Behavioral changes, permanent versus transient, and then resilience. Now, this is the part where I was like, wait a minute. Individual reset, as in individuals, us, like you and I, individually need to reset ourselves. The better angels in our nature, or not. Okay, so that to me is a stab at the Christians. The better angels in our nature, or not. Moral choices, because they're going to make you feel terrible about your morality. And if you don't go along with this, you're a terrible person. You're holding the world back. We have to take you out because you're going against the well-being of the entire world and for the common good, right, guys? Because communism, for the greater good, always has been that way. Mao, Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, Pol Pot, all of them, every single one of them, even King Leopold, that's what they were saying. Oh, for the greater good. And everybody has fallen for it time and time again throughout generations, because apparently we don't learn from history. But now they're doing it on a world scale, so that's nice. Mental health and well-being. Creativity, time, consumption, nature, and well-being. And then you got the conclusion, the acknowledgments, and the endnotes. Now, I'm not going to run down this entire book in one thing. You got your introduction and just this and that, but I actually wanted to highlight one thing here for anybody who's still... You always hear people saying, like, oh, we just need to take the vaccine and listen to the government to go back to normal. Let me just read you the part after the introduction here. First sentence, a new world will emerge. You mean like the New World Order? Because that's definitely what it is. The contours of which are for us to both imagine and to draw. At the time of writing, June 2020, so over the summer they wrote this, probably before, but this is what they're saying. The pandemic continues to worsen globally. Here's the sentence I wanted to show you people. Many of us are pondering when things will return to normal. The short response is never. So right here on the first page, he is telling you that we are not going back to normal. There is no more normal. We're not going back to how we were. You're not going to have freedom. Everything is part of the new normal. How many times do you hear that? Even in like medicine commercials. New normal, new normal. New world order is what that means. So, many of us are pondering when things will return to normal. The short response, never. Plain as day. Then nothing will ever return to the broken sense of normalcy that prevailed prior to the crisis, because the coronavirus pandemic marks a fundamental inflection point in our global trajectory. Some analysts call it a major biopurification. Others refer to it as deep crisis of, quote, biblical proportions. So, they reference the Bible. because if you're watching this channel and you know anything about this, we are in the end times. Whether you want to believe it or not, it doesn't matter what you believe. If you stood out in the highway and there was a semi-truck coming at you and you didn't believe it, you would still get hit. That's the truth. We are in the end times. But the essence remains the same. The world as we knew it in the early months of 2020 is no more. Dissolved in the context of the pandemic. What they mean is dissolved into the New World Order. Radical changes of such consequences that are coming to pundits have been referred to before coronavirus, BC, and after coronavirus, AC. Okay, so they're obviously mocking Christians because, as you know, we have BC, which was before Christ was born, and then we have AD, of course, after Christ. You know, you guys get it. You know what I'm saying? So in this book, literally, they just tell you the whole time that we're not going back to normal. We're building a super world government and you're not going to do anything about it. And this whole book is a literal manifesto of how they're going to achieve it. But not many people know about this book because they don't report it on the mainstream. You never hear about this book on the mainstream. It's like it doesn't even exist. There's the word new normal. So after that, we will continue to be surprised at both the rapidity and unexpected nature of those changes as they conflate with each other. They will provoke a second, third, fourth, and more order consequences, cascading effects and unforeseen outcomes. In so doing, they will shape a new normal, radically different from the one we will be progressively leaving behind. That sentence reminds me of George Bush Sr. on September 11th, 1991 or 1990, when he said, "A new world order, a world quite different from the one we've known," and just when he was going on all of that. Many of our beliefs and assumptions about the world could or should look like will be shattered in the process. So whatever you believe and assume about what the world could or should look like if you believe in freedom, nope, shattered in the process. So your freedom is going to be shattered in the process of building this world government. We've known that for a long time, actually. We've known that for so long that it's now becoming exhausting trying to tell people about these things. And then, however, broad and radical pronouncements like everything will change and all or nothing, black and white analysis should be deployed with great care. Of course, reality will be much more nuanced by itself. The pandemic may not completely transform the world, but it's likely to accelerate many of the changes that were already taking place before it erupted, which will in turn set in motion other changes. The only certainty, the changes won't be linear and sharp. Discontinuities will prevail. COVID-19, the Great Reset, is an attempt to identify and shed light on the changes ahead and to make a modest contribution in terms of delineating what their more desirable and sustainable form might resemble. Sustainable, like sustainable development. So already, right here, they're talking about how COVID is going to accelerate many of the changes that were already taking place before it erupted. Yes, they were trying to build it. It was going pretty quick before, but after this, it's just been immensely just prevalent that even the people that don't know anything about this are like, hey, wait, what's going on? I don't know many people that died. The guy down the street's not dead. My sister's not dead. None of my cousins are dead, but there's a pandemic. How's that make sense? I just wanted to come on here and give you like an introduction of this stuff, and then maybe after a while we'll go through it in a couple part videos, of course, because this is a pretty long book. It's got like, oh man, I don't even want to, I think there's like 200 some pages. Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm trying to do this with one hand. But as you can tell, this book is a publishing of the entire thing. The whole thing. So, looking right here, it talks about the Old and New Testament, often referred to the next number 40, blah, 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 blah. 40 days of Lent and the 40 days of flood in Genesis. They do refer to the Bible many times in this book. So by doing that, they are admitting that the Bible is true and real. Because if it was a, quote, myth, like mythology, like they try to say, then they wouldn't go on here and start talking about this and that and whatever. But in this book, I think it's in the next couple chapters, they talk about how COVID-19 won't kill many people. And it's only, he says it like at least 20 or 30 times, that it's just a vehicle to accelerate their pre-pandemic efforts. All I'm saying is that if you do not have this book, it looks like this, please, please, please read this. Please read it, understand it, read it again, know what's going on, and we just might be able to save the country and the world.